earlier I discussed all these variables in snaffle bits, and now I want to address the curb bit with you. As I mentioned, the snaffle bits provide direct contact with your horse's mouth, and that's kind of easy communication with the horse. But curb bits work very differently. Rather than having direct contact with the corner of your horse's mouth, you instead have indirect contact. And that's because a curb bit is typified by having a shank that attaches to the mouthpiece that extends down the outside of the horse's mouth. At the bottom of that shank is a ring, and that's where the reins attach. Now, when you have a curb bit in a horse's mouth, you will use a curb strap or sometimes a curb chain that will attach from one side of the horse's mouth underneath his jaw area to the other side of the corner of his mouth where the bit is. Now, once that curb chain is in place, the shank that has the rein attached at the end, when it's pulled back, it creates pressure underneath the horse's mouth here. And that is what the horse responds to. That's why this bit is called a bit that creates leverage. It's a leverage bit. So the tighter the curb strap is adjusted on your horse, the more sensitive he's going to be to any kind of action in your hands. Well, there are about as many curb bits out there as there are snaffle bits, and you need to know how they all differ so that you can select the proper curb bit for your horse. For example, how long is the shank? You know, if you've got a short shank, you don't have as much leverage as if you have a very long one, for example. And what is the curb chain made of? Is it a chain? Is it a wrap chain? Is it a leather strap? All of that will also affect how that bit affects your horse. So go to my blog at horseridingequipmentguide.com and read what I have there about all the different kinds of curb bits. Now for today, I'm going to talk about some of those factors with you. Like I said, the curb bit creates leverage. And what's important to know about that fact is this. When you exert pressure on the rein and you pull back, that shank pulls back and creates the pressure under here. And it is felt by the horse in an exponentially harsher way. So for every pound you exert, it is more than that the horse feels. So it's important to understand this fact because your hands need to be very, very considerate of the horse's mouth, because this is a more severe bit than, say, most snaffles, and can get you in trouble if you don't know exactly what you're doing. The other thing about curb bits, besides the length of the curb shank itself, that will determine how much leverage you have. The other thing is how tight are you adjusting that curb chain that's underneath his mouth. If it's loose, then you're going to be able to pull that shank back further before he ever feels anything. If it's really tight, he's going to feel it really soon, and it also might scare him if it's too tight. And the other thing to consider about curb bits is the size of the port. The mouthpiece often has a little hooked area right in the middle, and if it's really tall area, when you pull back, that can create a sensation that he doesn't like in his mouth, and you might wind up being in trouble if you don't realize that and don't treat his mouth with great care when you're pulling back on a rein that is a curb bit bridle. Well, that's all I have right now about curb bits. I hope you visit my website at the horseridingequipmentguide.com and learn more about curb bits. For now, we're going to take a short commercial break at the Horse and Rider Radio Show, and we'll be right back.